Hi, this is Pat Oceanic. I'm the Director of the Office of Health Equity and Inclusion at the Alfred I. DuPont Hospital for Children, and I'm really happy to be able to present a generational diversity session for you this afternoon called Leading Across the Ages. As you think about your mentor and mentee relationships and how generations may impact that relationship. So the objectives behind this time this afternoon are to identify and define the generations that are within the U.S. organizations today, take a look at some of the impacts and the challenges that having all of these generations and what they bring to organizations, identify and describe approaches for the impacts, and then finally, how can we leverage these differences to make a better organization? So for the first time in recent history, we have 4 generations in the workforce at this time, and you can see from this slide the general categories of age groups for each of the generations. And if you take a look at the span, for example, for baby boomers, you can see that there's quite a span between 1946 and 1964. So it's not to say that everyone in the baby boomer category is going to have the same wants and needs. Obviously, they'd be different at both ends of the spectrum. So we're not going to get into too much stereotyping, but we will talk about general ideas that these different generations hold. So this is a recent look at the U.S. workforce according to age category. And obviously, this will be shifting as time marches on. Generation X at 29% of the workforce will be growing, as will Gen Y. Baby boomers and traditionalists will be decreasing as time goes on. So why is generational diversity important? These are changing demographics in the workplace. With different ideas and thoughts and motivators for the generations, there is more chance for gaps and misunderstanding. We want to talk about how to deal with the different expectations. These impacts not only the workplace, but it also impacts home and play. And in healthcare, I think there's really a double impact. We take a look at staff-to-staff relationships, and we also take a look at staff-to-patient relationships. So, as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to be involved in stereotyping, which is inflexible characterization of everyone in a group. However, if we do take a look at this at the generational cut, we'll have some, hopefully, different insight, awareness, and empathy for folks that may have different wants and needs than we do. This is a wheel that was designed by a woman named Marilyn Loden, and it's called the Diversity Wheel. You take a look at the middle of the wheel, personality, that's where our first distinctions take place, and those could be distinctions based on our Myers-Briggs personality type. The second wheel, which is the internal dimensions, are often called the Big Six, and these are ones that have federal and or state anti-discrimination laws to prohibit employment discrimination against. The external dimensions add another layer to the kaleidoscope of what makes us different and unique. And then finally, within a particular organization, we have distinctions that categorize people into different categories. And so everybody that we look at is not one-dimensional. We are multidimensional people, and all of these characteristics play into what drives us. So the distinctions of generation, our values, our attitudes, behaviors, habits, motivation, influence how we communicate, how we approach work, what we think of work, what it means to us, and how we make contributions in a team setting. I love the metaphor of culture as an iceberg, and above the water line is only 10%. These are the things that we can see with other folks. The 90% that is below the waterline, our attitudes and core values, are things that were messages that were given to us as we were growing up by the people that raised us and are not necessarily apparent to a casual observer. So what are the effects of these ways in which we were raised? It's how we look at hierarchy and authority. What does money mean to us and advancement, technology? Do we want work-life balance? Are we loyal as employees? How do we like recognition? And how do we communicate differently? Here are some generational characteristics. You can take a look at some of the different ideas that are held by various generations, who's conservative versus ambitious, who approaches work from a flexible perspective, who's hopeful, optimistic, etc. Now, when you translate these characteristics to the workplace, some of the things that you begin to see are distinctions between the generations in work ethic and values. Baby boomers are folks that really love to work. Life is about work, and when you look at some of the other generations, it is more of a means to an end. Work is a means to an end as opposed to something that is required. When it comes to communication across generations, people like different ways of communicating. Traditionalists are much more formal, memos. Baby boomers like more in person. And on the previous slide, you could see that baby boomers like to have meetings, and that really plays to their style of liking face-to-face communication. Gen X folks, don't tell me next week what you wanted to tell me today or what you need to tell me today. And Gen Y, it's immediate, voicemail, email. If you take a look at work and family life, traditionalists say never the twain shall meet. And baby boomers live to work, whereas Gen Xers work to live. Balance is important with Gen X and Gen Y, where it's less important with baby boomers and traditionalists. So if you think about some of the folks that you've encountered that may be of different generations than you are, and you think about perhaps some of the miscommunications or intent not equaling impact, you can see possibly where these things come into play. And so if we take a look at the yellow boxes, traditionalists have a great respect for authority, whereas baby boomers question authority. Baby boomers, on the other hand, may be considered to be workaholics, and Gen Y see work as a means to an end. So what does this mean for the workplace? First of all, we need to take a look at our culture and how does it play into Linamore's culture, the standards of behavior. Other implications for the workplace come into the standards of behavior looking at respect. This is another level of respect beyond the obvious ones of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, etc., and valuing others. You know, a good team is a team that has lots of perspectives, and even though it may be more challenging to manage a team that has a variety of opinions, a team is more whole when we have these various opinions and perspectives. We all have blind spots, and if everybody has the same blind spot on a team, we'll be missing something big. But if we all have different blind spots, hopefully together, there will be no gaps. The last bullet point that talks about the platinum rule, we say this rule is one higher than the golden rule. Instead of saying I treat people the way that I wish to be treated, the platinum rule says do unto others as they would have you do unto them. So as long as what they're asking for does not fly in the face of your value system and you can relate to people in a way that makes sense to them, better communication, stronger relationships, greater trust, which is really important, obviously, in a mentor-mentee relationship. So how can we use this if we are mentoring someone or if we are a protege and we have a mentor? We can recognize that these differences are normal, natural, and to be expected. They influence our behaviors at work. We know that everyone wants to be treated with dignity and respect, but that treatment may look different across generations. A lot of times when we think about diversity, we think about the things that we don't have in common, but we have an awful lot in common. The goal of working with children, helping them regain health, restore health, etc., is a shared purpose versus the ways in which we may be different or approaching the work in a different manner. Listening how other people feel and being open and honest with things that bother you. We would say respect and leveraging separate realities as well as courageous conversations. And then finally, being willing to flex your preferences, understanding that collaboration means success for all of us. How can we create a generations-friendly workplace? We can continually send messages that it's not just one type of person who's successful here at Nemours. We work with teams that we pull together that consciously involve multiple perspectives. So who is at the table? And more importantly, who is not at the table that we need to invite to the table? We can talk about different viewpoints and encourage people to present their viewpoints if there seems to be some reticence or holding back. We can expect the best from everyone and treat them as if they have great things to offer. People will rise to our expectations. We focus on retaining top talent every day, and we create work assignments that are broad, that give variety and challenge, and allow each employee to develop a range of skills. And that, when you think about a mentor-mentee relationship, is paramount. It's exposing that young protege to some experiences that he or she would not have had a chance to see otherwise to develop the skills. And with that, I say thank you. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me an email or drop me a line. Thank you.